In 1998, tobacco companies paid hundreds of billions to settle health claims. Now social networks face their own moment of reckoning. Social networks are facing what experts are calling their tobacco moment. The comparison is not just poetic, it is structural. In 1998, 4 major tobacco companies signed a historic agreement with the attorneys general of 52 United States states. They agreed to pay more than $200 billion over the following years to fund health treatments for smokers. They were accused of promoting products that were harmful to health, especially to minors. The agreement included strict advertising limits, banning depictions of people smoking even on billboards. It was a serious blow to their business. 3 decades later, Meta has signed a similar pact. The parent company of Instagram and Facebook has agreed to pay nearly $18 billion to the attorneys general of 52 states and territories, although only 29 of them actually sued. This settlement resolves the suit accusing the company of designing products with known harmful effects on young people's mental health. The settlement goes beyond a simple financial penalty. Meta has agreed to implement specific design changes to its apps aimed at limiting social media use among minors. The agreement establishes a hard cap. Minors will not be allowed to be connected for more than 2 hours a day. This is a direct intervention into the user experience. Additionally, the deal mandates a nighttime disconnection period, ensuring that devices are not used during sleep hours. There will also be no notifications delivered during school hours. These are not just suggestions. They are structural constraints on how the platform operates for its youngest users, mirroring the advertising restrictions seen in the tobacco settlement of the previous century. To enforce these limits, Meta must strengthen its age verification mechanisms. The goal is to more accurately identify children under the age of 13, who are not permitted to use the platforms, and adolescents aged 13 to 17, who will be subject to the stricter rules. The agreement establishes that having users voluntarily state their age is no longer sufficient. The system must actively verify this data. This shift from passive declaration to active verification is a significant change in how platforms manage their user base. It requires Meta to build deeper infrastructure to track and enforce these boundaries, moving away from the open access model that defined the early internet. The immediate reaction from the market was telling Meta stock went up 8% on the announcement of this deal. Investors seem to agree that this is a clear win for the company. By settling, Mark Zuckerberg's company avoids having to appear in federal court in Oakland, which would have been a lengthy and expensive legal battle. The 8% jump suggests that the market views the $18 billion price tag as a manageable cost of doing business, especially when weighed against the alternative of a potentially larger judgment or endless litigation. This financial relief allows Meta to focus on its next phase of development without the immediate threat of a federal injunction. However, the community reaction on forums like Futurology suggests this victory might be short-lived. One commenter pointed out that when you factor in inflation, the original tobacco settlement is worth over $400 billion in today's money. In that context, the Meta settlement is being viewed by many as a joke, or at best, a very small slap on the wrist. The argument is that the numbers these tech companies deal in are getting exponentially larger, but most people are still dealing in the same amounts they always have, in their wallets, bank accounts, and salaries. The gap is widening. Critics argue that Meta is dodging a huge bullet here, paying a fine that will barely dent its revenue, while the real issues of digital mental health remain unresolved. The structure of the payment also draws criticism. One commenter noted that Meta has 10 years to pay that sum. When spread over a decade, the annual cost becomes relatively easy to absorb. Another user summarized the sentiment by saying that we have sold our children for a discount. For perspective, Meta recently took an $80 billion loss while investing in metaverse development. Compared to those massive figures, and compared to the annual profits generated by the very algorithms that drive addiction, the settlement amount is seen by many as a business expense rather than a true penalty. It is a calculation of risk versus reward, and Meta has decided that $18 billion is the cheaper option. Perhaps the most significant long-term consequence is the privacy trade-off. The agreement establishes that voluntary age statements are no longer enough. To implement meaningful verification, we are looking at a future where people must hand over their IDs and biometric data to access the internet without being hit with age restrictions. This is the messy part of the deal. There is no way to meaningfully implement these limits without online identity verification. We are moving from an era of relative digital anonymity to an era of constant identity tracking. The cost of protecting children may be the permanent erosion of privacy for everyone. So, where does this leave us? The pact between Meta and the attorneys general reduces the hours. Minors can use social media and aims to serve as a guide for the rest of the industry. It is a historic agreement that will shape the future of platforms. Whether it is a victory for civil society or a strategic retreat by a tech giant depends on your perspective. But one thing is clear, the era of the Wild West of social media is ending. The tobacco moment for tech is here. The question now is whether these new limits will actually change behavior, or if we will simply find new ways to disconnect while staying connected. The future of the internet is being rewritten, one regulation at a time. The digital landscape is shifting under our feet. We are trading privacy for protection and speed for sanity. What do you think? Is this a fair price for our children's mental health? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of technology.